Other financial predators that exist out there, such as refund anticipation loans. We have exorbitant prices being charged by companies like Rent-A-Center. We have these prepaid debit cards and check advances places that are out there charging people to pay money to use their own money.
Right.
How do we get this and really start a movement to get these individuals knowledge and education that they can start steering away from those things into a more responsible type of
Some of it is letting people understand what the alternatives, what the options are for them, and getting the information out there. You know, it's hard to say to somebody. You know, I mean, I had a discussion with someone on a street corner a week or two ago about how he's like, "Yep, my check." It was a gentleman I was out campaigning, and he basically said his check hadn't arrived. Works for the city of New York. His check hadn't gotten there yet. I was like, "Why don't you have direct deposit?" And he was like, "Well, now I want to get the check in my hand." I went, "Listen, you can get your money would be in the bank already. You can go and start to spend it." And we had a discussion back and forth about why he should use direct deposit. A lot of people don't understand that. It is in getting out there, letting people understand it. I can say to somebody, you need to go to a bank. Some communities don't have that many banks. So, I was talking about banking development districts. Is trying to create bank branches in underserved neighborhoods. We need to continue to do things like that and open more bank branches. It seems some neighborhoods, there's a bank branch on every corner. In other neighborhoods, very few bank branches.
Right.
So a lot of this is in making sure that things are available and then providing the education that goes along with it, providing the information, start doing public service, announcements. And there's nothing, what's the problem with the mayor of the city of New York doing a public service announcement, talking about the need to open a bank account,
Right.
as opposed to and telling people, here's what it costs you to go cash your check. And the check cash, it costs you extra money. That's money you could spend on other things. Here's what it costs. Here's what you throw away over a year. If you get paid every 2 weeks, and here's what it costs you. Here's what you waste. So I think it is providing the information and getting out there and continuing to drill that home.
Now let's shift a little bit to the unemployment rates, especially in minority communities. You talked a little bit about in a report that you came out with not too long ago that the unemployment rate in the black community in the New York area is 14.7%, as opposed to the nation, it's 13.6%. One, how would you explain this rate in the city of New York? What is the reason that individuals of color are having so much problem trying to find employment?
I don't know that there is any one answer. I found the number as we started to look through it, what it meant. It wasn't just where it was compared to the national average. It was where it had come from.
Right.
The unemployment rate in the black community had been the year before, 12 months before, first quarter of 2008, had been 5.7%. 1 year later, first quarter of 2009, it's 14.7%, and had escalated and jumped dramatically compared to every other community in the city of New York. I saw that as that's a crisis. It's a wake-up call. Attention needed to be paid. I was proud of the fact that, it was one of those things that you have with a mixed emotion. The president cited when he came to the NAACP and spoke there, he cited the report. He cited the number because he found it alarming. So I was proud that he had noted that I had done the work. But then again, what was being noted for was that unemployment rate, and that was a frightening thing. You're not sure of exactly why. Is it that African Americans perhaps impacted more by the decline in retail across the city of New York, and perhaps overrepresented in some retail areas as far as employment? Some of it was the city of New York, I'm sure, as far as the government reducing the number of people who work for it, but that didn't explain all of it. There was just too large a number, too high a percentage to have one answer.
Now, Barack Obama, in one of his press conferences, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, was asked directly, why is he not directly addressing the issues in the black community? And his response to that question was something the likes of that, well, if blacks are disproportionately represented in terms of higher unemployment rates, if he extends unemployment insurance, then they'll be disproportionately impacted more positively by that extension of unemployment insurance. And the likes of other statistics such as higher incarceration rates if he tries to sort of thing. Now, do you agree with that in terms of, or should there be a direct assessment or addressing of those issues in minority communities, or is that sufficient enough in terms of that?
As I said, the president has a national outlook, and that's one thing. That's not my outlook. My outlook is, and the concern is the people of New York City. So when you look at a situation like that, no, you want to try and target things that can work to, that can work to increase employment in African American, in Hispanic communities in New York City. And then what you want to start to take a look at is what are some of the measures that you can do, work on that. Some of it's job training, and it's coordinating and working on job training programs in the city of New York, making sure they start to target now and say, hey, what are we doing here? I'd like to have additional focus created in this neighborhood, because it is a crisis when neighborhoods in the city of New York aren't, when things don't look the same, then you need to create additional focus.
Right.
So I would say that in New York, focus needs to be created. It needs, as you look at Mike Bloomberg's response when they asked him why, and I was stunned that his answer was, I'm not sure. Well, maybe it's last hired, first fired. That's not an answer.
Do you think he's out of touch a little bit? And I'll read you a quote that he said. And that matter of fact, you guys sent out a press release against this quote. He said, last time I checked, pharmaceutical companies don't make a lot of money. Their executives don't make a lot of money. Do you think that Michael Bloomberg really understands the plight of those in the inner city communities of the city of New York? Is he a little bit out of touch, in your opinion?
I'm not going to say it's out of touch. I'm going to say he clearly just doesn't understand the people of the city of New York. The 95% or 97% of them who aren't making, tens of millions of dollars a year. It's the same person who pointed out that when they talked about increasing taxes on wealthy New Yorkers, said, no, we don't want to tax the rich. We love the rich. We want more rich people.
Right.
In New York, going to restaurants, spending money, that will benefit all of us. That's, I've had enough of George Bush's trickle-down economics.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Do you think he's a Republican? He's independent. He's independent, but he brought the GOP convention here in 2004, and he's on the ticket, a Republican ticket.
Mike Bloomberg it isn't a question, and I'll run through a couple of things quickly, that could say he's a Republican, but it doesn't. He endorsed George Bush in 2004 for President of the United States for re-election. He has contributed more to the Republican Party in the state of New York, and definitely the Republican State Senate, and trying to maintain it as a Republican stronghold. He's given more than anyone else in the state of New York over the last 5 to 8 years. You can run through the list. He was on the short list of 5 to be the vice president along with John McCain and being his running mate. But that's not the reason that Mike Bloomberg's a Republican. He's a Republican because of his policies. If you look at things like charging homeless families rent to live in shelters, if you look at his failure to allow single able-bodied individuals to get food stamps in the city of New York, if you look at his over-reliance and focus on Wall Street and big business and this trickle-down economics, that's what makes him a Republican. It is the things he's done, in his support for Bush and other things, but it is also the policies that he's implemented as the mayor of the city of New York.
Now, I was doing a workshop in the public housing community not too long ago, and I met a woman who was in the community center, and she was the head of the community center, and she said to me that she was scared at the fact that, one, there was no more funding left, and this community center is going to be closing down soon. And then she said, I'm also scared because I heard this thing that federal funding for public housing had dried up in the city. It seems like they're not going to be able to fund public housing any longer, and I think I'm going to become evicted. How do you respond to someone like that?
I wouldn't say that she would become evicted, that she would be put out of her apartment, but the federal government under George Bush had cut its commitment to public housing all across the country. The Bloomberg administration, had given the Housing Authority and the City Council really had given them money a few years ago to be able to help bridge a gap, but they haven't since. And the mayor definitely has not. What you are seeing in public housing in the city of New York through the Housing Authority, community centers are closing, senior centers are closing, and New York City, one of the couple untold secrets that really, you don't see people go talk about often. New York City charges the Housing Authority for police protection, for sanitation, as well as other things. The people in the Housing Authority developments pay taxes. Why they're being hit a second time for things that the rest of us almost take for granted because we pay taxes, I have yet to understand.
Would you decrease